circulating against the A or the B, because it has both those antigens on the blood cell. Blood type O doesn't have either an A or B antigen on the blood cell. So it has both. Its antibodies that are circulating in the plasma are both anti-A and anti-B antibodies. Make sense? Sort of. So if a donor type A blood is transfused into a recipient type B blood, the antigens on the type A blood will react with the anti-A serum antibodies of the recipient. And then it will cause clumping, which is the basis of blood typing. When you get your blood, when I did Bio3 here, we used to do our blood in Bio3, and you would add these antibodies to little wells and then put your blood in, and whichever one you could tell what your blood type was as to if it was clumping, then that wasn't your you know, you could tell if it was an anti-A that you had there and your blood was clumping and you didn't have a type A blood. So here's showing you a mismatched blood. The donor is type A donor, and over on the other side, that type A donor is giving blood to somebody that has type B blood. And so when that happens, those type B antibodies are against the A. Remember, if you have a B carbohydrate on your red blood cells, you're making antibodies against the A. So when the A gives you the blood, those antibodies are going to hook up with the antigens that are on there, and because there's two binding sites on each antibody, you get a clumping of a lot of blood cells that are together. And also then, when that happens, complement can come on the scene. And complement then can bind to that stem of the antibody, that Fc stem. And remember, complement can lyse cells, causes inflammation, plays a part in lysing cells. And that's what's happening here.
So the type B blood is considered the antigen, and that binds to the type A.
It's going, yes, the antibodies are gonna go onto the antigen, which is the type A antigen, because that guy has type A blood on the blood cell. But type B has anti-A antibodies floating in the plasma. And so if you give type B, type A blood, those antibodies are ready to take out that, you know, to hook up to the antigens that are
So
on.
the donor would be the antigen.
Yeah, the donor is yes, it's the antigen to, well, the antigen is the A antigen on the red blood cell. Yeah. Another example is the surface antigen on red blood cells is called the Rh factor. It's named Rh because the rhesus monkey also has this factor. So 85% of the population have that Rh factor, and we say then that they're Rh positive. And it's also an antigen on the red blood cell. And 15% don't have the antigen, so they're considered Rh negative. So in an Rh negative person, they don't have the antibody against the factor. So they and not like with the blood group where you already have that antigen against the opposite blood types. But if that Rh negative person gets exposed to an Rh positive blood, then they become sensitized to it and they produce antibodies against it. But it doesn't normally have that antibody. blood cells do against other blood types. So if Rh positive blood is given to an Rh negative person, then they're gonna, the Rh negative person will produce anti-Rh antibodies. Then, but nothing may happen at that point, you know. They're producing antibodies against this factor. But if the Rh negative person gets another transfusion of Rh positive blood, then you can get hemolytic reactions that can be serious. Your blood cells are going to be lysing because now you have that antibody that's going to attach to the red blood cells and lyse it. Also under cytotoxic reactions is hemolytic diseases of newborns. This occurs when an Rh positive man and an Rh negative woman have an Rh positive child. And then the mom produces anti-Rh antibodies against the Rh positive child. So normally, you know, a few fetal cells may pass across the placenta to the mother's circulation, but not enough to stimulate a primary antibody response. So that's the normal stuff that's going on. Even if you're Rh negative and you have an you're carrying a Rh positive child. And by the way, I had 4 children, didn't have any problem. I'm Rh negative, and my husband was Rh positive. But during the birth, if the baby and the mom's blood mix, then the mother's going to produce anti-Rh antibodies. And then with the next child that she becomes pregnant with, the next Rh positive child, her anti-Rh antibodies will cross the placenta and then they'll destroy the fetal red blood cells. Normally, if you're Rh negative and you have an Rh positive child, a few blood cells go across the placenta from the baby to the mother, but not enough to cause any antibody production. But if during the birth, the placenta may tear, blood comes from the baby to the mother, then the mother is going to produce these anti-Rh antibodies. And if she gets pregnant again with another Rh positive child, yes?
Is that why they give
Rogan?
shots to the baby, to the mothers when they're pregnant?
After delivery, they get a Rogan shot. Yeah.
Oh, it's not right after?
Well, it was after for me.
Oh.
Let's see, what was I gonna say? Oh, so if she becomes pregnant with, once she's sensitized, and she has those antibodies now against Rh positive, and she has a second child in her womb that is Rh positive, then her antibodies are going to pass over through the placenta and destroy the baby's red blood cells. Before birth, mother circulation removes toxic products of the fetal red blood cell disintegration. But after birth, this doesn't happen, and so these babies then develop jaundice and severe anemia, and the baby may need a transfusion. And they even will transfuse babies if they need it while they're in the womb. A third example is thrombocytopenia. And this one occurs when blood platelets, and platelets are what's used in clotting your blood, are coated with drug molecules. So So I wrote up on the board there. Drug molecules are oftentimes haptens, meaning that the drug is so small, it's too small to cause an antigenic reaction by itself. But if it coats that platelet, then the combination is antigenic. So the antibodies attach to the drug that is on the platelet, and it's going to cause lysing of the blood cells. And complement is needed, to hook up to the antibodies, and then complement is the one that causes the lysis of the platelet. And you see this in people that have this because they have, besides impaired blood clotting, they get little hemorrhages that are under their skin. Type 3 hypersensitivity is called immune complex reaction. You have a certain antigen-antibody ratio, and it's just a slight bit more of antigen than antibody. And it's able to avoid phagocytosis, and it results in these small complexes that form. And type 3 hypersensitivity happens when these small complexes are formed between antibodies and small soluble antigens. That means that the antigen isn't on a cell, it's just in the blood. And the complexes can trigger complement activation and lead to rash formation and inflammation. Then these complexes are circulating in your blood, and then they can locate themselves in the basement membrane, which is beneath the endothelial cells of the blood vessels. And those are the ones that line the inside of the blood vessels. And then they may activate complement. So if you get complement fixation, where the complement is going to combine with the antigen and antibody complex, that can cause inflammation, something that complement initiates, and it can cause tissue damage as well. So many things that can go wrong with your body. So here's showing you the antibody antigen complexes that are forming. And they this is your base epithelial tissue, and so they go down below the epithelial tissue, the endothelium. They also attract neutrophils to the area, and neutrophils then can cause symptoms because they release histamine as well. And they affect all kinds of things. These complexes can affect joints, they can affect organs, blood vessels. So here's a couple of the autoimmune reactions.